Today was a big day as we finally heard head coach Craig Berube speak out on the decision to join the Toronto Maple Leafs, and we also, in a bit of a surprising fashion, heard from Brad Treliving and Brendan Shanahan, and they revealed some of the future offseason plans and what the Leafs are looking to do this offseason regarding their style of play. So we're going to break all that down in this episode, but before we do, quick reminder, hit the subscribe button if you're a part of the large percentage who aren't subscribed. We're less than 300 subscribers away from 10,000, so if you can help us towards that big goal, make sure to do that, and it would mean the world to Darius and myself. Darius, yeah, we were waiting for this press conference today, and it wasn't as exciting as maybe some of us thought, but there are some things to take away from it. I'm very curious to get your opinion on a lot of these things, and let's just dive into it. There's a lot of quotes. I'm just going to be going through them in rapid fire, and we have one in particular that's very interesting, which we'll get into later in the video. But let's just start with the first one. So the Craig Berube era is officially underway, and Keith Pelly watched the news conference from the front row, and Keith Pelly's been very involved. As, of course, the new MLSE guy, he's really starting to get involved in the Leafs things. And here's what Treliving said regarding the coaching hire. He says he met with upward of 9 individuals for the Leafs coaching job. When I went through the process, it kept coming back to Craig Berube. And this is kind of something that we had a feeling about. It made the most sense. He's obviously a proven coach. He won a Stanley Cup with the Blues. And I think given the current roster, he fits very well. And Berube spoke out and said great players was one of the attractions to wanting to coach the Leafs. What are your thoughts on this one right here? It seems like the whole time, even though they interviewed Todd McClellan, probably clearly a handful of other guys, it kept coming back to ultimately Craig Berube here.
It goes all the way back to January. He was on a podcast where he was talking about how he would have liked to be the Leafs head coach, depending what happens with that role. And obviously it opened up with Sheldon Keefe getting fired, and he ends up getting hired. And it was kind of him the whole time. We were talking about it. We were covering it on the channel. Everyone was talking about it's going to be Craig Berube, but they're going to do their due diligence and interview other people. And it sounded like he did that. And I loved what Brad Treliving said about the process. They went through 9 other people. They kept bringing it back to the best candidate. Like, I love that stuff. I loved almost everything he said again in this press conference. I love what Treliving is doing with the team and his vision. I can see the vision, right? I don't feel like I'm being gaslit anymore and things are being said where I don't truly believe in it. I can see where he's going and what he wants to do with the team. So that's really nice. I did like the comments this morning too. Although it was a bit of a boring press conference in the way that we didn't learn too much, but we do have an idea of where they want to take the team.
Yeah, and especially, which we'll get into in a little bit, kind of what their style of play, or Craig Berube's style of play, he wants to get into going forward. But obviously with Berube, of course, the great players are one of the attractions, and maybe one of those great players might be on the way out in Mitch Marner, but that's for another, we've discussed that a little bit, but you can see some people in some of the comments they had. So this is from Down Goes Brown. He said, this is the second time Treliving has made a big deal out of everyone on the team mattering, and it is not just being all about a few guys, and now I really want to know what some of those exit interviews with the depth guys were like. And obviously, it's going to be interesting because Treliving has been, if you read between the lines there, you can kind of start to get and gather what his plan might be going forward in the offseason regarding bringing back Max Domi, potentially Tyler Bertuzzi. We made a video yesterday on Jake DeBrusk, which is a bit of a up and down thing there. But this is an interesting thing to discuss. Do you have any thoughts on this and kind of how Brad Treliving, based on what he's saying in these interviews, is planning to do regarding the depth guys rather than being super top heavy like the Leafs have kind of always been? It seems like he's prioritizing, along with the Craig Berube hire, which we'll get into in a minute, kind of just not a different style of play, but more of a deeper roster, especially regarding when it comes to the playoffs, because you obviously need that then. And quite frankly, the superstars and the top heavy guys haven't performed in the playoffs.
No, and I thought this was the most interesting thing of the day or thought of the day about how the exit interviews went. And like Treliving said, this isn't a new thing. This might be a new thing in the last year, but he said this is something they wanted to address as soon as he got there. And it sounds like he has been the whole time. So to bring up the exit interviews, I thought that was a great point, because what are you learning from players who are not Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, and William Nylander? I wonder if they're a little bit mad about their usage and the fact that, we can't win as a team when the only guys playing are those guys. And if they're not going, they're still playing, right? We've seen that that's an issue. So I thought that was a really good point. And Treliving made it a point in last week's press conference, or I guess 2 weeks ago now, and today's press conference to say, it's a team structure. We're trying to build a team here. The old philosophy is dead. We're going to move forward, whatever that may look like, because he's going to get to work now. I like how he was really transparent too about the part where since the last time we saw him, he's just been working on the coaching thing, which is great. Get that under control, move on to the next thing. I like that, and I like the transparency. So pretty interesting. I wonder if they got some tips from some of the players that was kind of like, we don't like the way this team is built, and I didn't like my usage, even though they're a role player, third line, fourth line. When it comes down to it, we're seeing it now in the playoffs. You need all four lines. You need every single guy. So I like that Brad Treliving is going that direction.
Yeah, and he seems very open. And you mentioned it. Their focus was on the coaching staff. We've been saying that this first domino that falls the coaching staff, and then I guess the assistant coaching staff that falls under the encompass of the coaching staff. But now these depth guys, these re-signing Max Domi, all these other things are going to fall into place very soon here. And some more comments from Brad Treliving on Craig Berube. Ultimately, character matters. It matters with your team, and it matters with your head coach. And this obviously isn't calling out Sheldon Keefe necessarily, but I think that Brad Treliving has acknowledged that they needed a change of culture. And I think, Craig Berube has a much different approach than Sheldon Keefe does. Sheldon Keefe is probably more of the players' coach, whereas Craig Berube, players still want to go to war for him, but he's a bit of a harder coach to not impress necessarily, but go ahead.
He can be a player's coach 100%.
In a different way.
You have to earn his respect, and he'll give you that respect back. And I think that's what's been lacking. And that's how you win championships, right? You need that respect both ways. So I think he is a player's coach in the way that if you do exactly what he's saying and you're playing for him, he's going to give you the world, basically, right? He's going to give you every opportunity to succeed.
And we've seen other players who used to play with him in the past say that, where he started off where he wasn't players are a little bit scared to play for him, and then they realized by the end it was the best coach he's ever had. So it's very exciting when you're looking towards the future. Berube says discussions on his coaching staff are to come. Seems like it's going to be from Berube, so I can't imagine that everyone's going to stay. Maybe Boucher goes. A couple of other guys, and Ryan might stay, given the thing in the past. And you see Sid, with all due respect, if the Leafs don't change his core, it doesn't matter who the coach is. Agreed to it. But the first domino that had to fall was Craig Berube. Classic Sid Seixeiro, bringing the negative in every single situation that's possible. But I do want to throw up this screenshot, Darius, before we wrap up here. And this one's very interesting, and this gives a hint into the off-season potential plans here. So you can see, shout out to Mike, I'm not going to even try to pronounce his last name. We want to be a North team, we want to be fast, and we want to be a heavy team. So this is kind of, Craig Berube saying this might give some, or lean into do some foreshadowing regarding what the Leafs are going to be looking for. Shout out to Mike Zeisberger for this. Try to pronounce it. But
that's it.
I got it first try. But you kind of look at the free agents now, a big, heavy team. You look at Max Domi, Tyler Bertuzzi, Jake DeBrusk. These are the three guys we're kind of bringing up. But then potential trades, if you're bringing out or shipping out Mitch Marner, maybe the guys you want to come back, you can do some foreshadowing here into what a team Craig Berube wants. Because now it's Craig Berube's team. Obviously, Brad Treliving's going to be the one at the helm. But it's going to be interesting to see now, based on these little quotes, we can do some foreshadowing into what kind of players are going to be looking to bring in. I think Max Domi is 1A on this list.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are starting to get worried that the Leafs are going to go to this barbaric style of hockey that's slow and mimics the dead puck era and stuff like that. I don't think that's what they're looking to do. They just want to get bigger, heavier, and they still want to be fast with the skill that they currently have, like Austin Matthews and William Nylander, for example. They just want to get heavier and faster. And it's a great point that you bring up Jake DeBrusk. We just talked about him a few days ago. He kind of fits the mold in what they're saying they want to build here. So I wonder if that's another player they look at. Obviously, you got to look at Max Domi, I think, is 95% returning. They're going to find a way to get that done. He was way too valuable for them this year. He wants to be here. All the card, everything's falling in that favor. So I think the interesting one is Tyler Bertuzzi. What does that look like? I think that's going to be really interesting.
Yeah, and I think that domino falls regarding Max Domi. Probably first, even before Mitch Marner trade, just to get some of the things settled down. But that'll wrap it up. Let us know what your thoughts are on this. Obviously, it wasn't the most exciting press conference, but there still was a lot to take from, and we'll continue to have videos for you guys every single day. So make sure to hit the subscribe button on the road to 10,000. Thank you guys for watching. See you soon.